Awesome. We're live. Getting settled in. We're going to take a moment here to sort of ease into this video. This is going to be a really practice center space. So we're just getting started here, watching on the replay or here live. We're going to play in the full moon magic tonight. We're going to do it in a very embodied way, as we always do in these spaces. So as we're getting started here, first thing, an invitation to get settled in. Taking a seat if you haven't yet. Finding your feet on the floor, your seat in your chair. Tuning into self. This is embodiment work. We're going to sort of tune into the moon, tune into some different energies. But first thing first, we're going to begin by tuning into self. Taking some deep breaths into your body, really centering in self, in this core of embodiment work that we do here. And as you're settling in, an invitation to put into the chat, this is a space for full moon, right? This is the full moon. Full moons being a time of release. So you can put in the chat, put in the comments, what are you releasing that feels true and aligned for you? To comment that, to put it out there, to really put into words what you are releasing right now. And as you're doing this, it might help to start to really tune into that full moon energy. This worked out very well. I wanted to do this evening so that I could sit under the light of the full moon, and worked out perfectly. I have the full moon rose a little while ago, but it's still sitting out there. So I get to sit under the light of the full moon. So if that's the case, you're here live, an invitation to tune into that full moon right now, this physical connection. So much of the embodiment work we do here is about this direct connection, whether it's a physical connection or a direct energetic connection. What we're going to be talking about today, as we are in Gemini energy. Gemini, the way I speak to Gemini, the way I work with Gemini, simply Gemini to me is the mind. Gemini is an air sign, is the mind, to simplify things. So often our minds have this tendency to really complicate things, and this is a part of astrology that I honor, but it's also not really my thing. It's not my thing to get into the super complicated nature of astrology, right? You dive into astrology and it's this whole world that our minds have created and mapped out, and it's beautiful and it's amazing. I don't teach any complicated astrology. What I teach, what I facilitate is embodiment work. So in embodiment work, what we are doing is tuning in directly, whether that's physically, whether that's energetically. An invitation here, those of you just tuning in, we're just warming up, just getting started. Tuning in to that moon. And if you're like me, where I can literally see the moon outside my window, I have been sitting for the past hour under the light of the moon, letting the light of the moon pour into me. But even if you can't see it, you can still tune in. You can always tune into the moon. One of the reasons I love the moon is It's such it's a part of astrology that's so readily available, right? It's so easy for us to connect in, whereas other aspects of astrology maybe aren't as easy to directly tune in. So once again, just getting started, just easing in. I'm just sharing some words, setting the stage for what we're doing here today. That invitation is there if you want to put what you are releasing under this full moon in the chat. What you're releasing, right? When we work with the moon cycles, we work with cycles. This is one of the beautiful reasons I love to work with the moon is the moon teaches us the cyclical nature of things. When I first started really working with the moon, sort of being in this practice of each full moon getting outside and sitting with the moon, right? Again, this physical practice, physically putting myself in sight of the moon, right? That direct energetic connection. It was a time in my life where I was shifting from this very sort of linear, what I speak to as masculine way of seeing things, way of being in the world, way of thinking, this very linear way, right? That life is about linear progression. It's about taking one step, then the next, right? This linear progression. And what the moon taught me, the moon showed me, is that that's not really what life is, right? The moon teaches us the cyclical nature of things. The moon teaches us that building of the light, then that falling away of the light. And so here we are at the middle of a moon cycle where, back at the new moon, you may have set an intention, maybe not. There's this building of the light, and here we are at the full moon, and the full moon gives us an opportunity to release. So maybe it's this moon cycle, maybe it's a greater cycle in your life. We're always, working in many, many different cycles. I know for me right now, I'm in this powerful, powerful, potent release that I know many, many different cycles are kind of lining up now. And I've just been for weeks now in this deep, deep state of release. And now finding myself at this full moon, another opportunity to release. So again, that invitation to put in the chat what you're releasing under the light of this full moon in Gemini. So let's talk more about Gemini. Let's talk more about Gemini. And as I talk about Gemini, I want to talk about it in relation to Sagittarius. And I want to do that because, yes, we have the moon in Gemini, but we have the sun in Sagittarius. And what that means is the sun in Sagittarius is shining its light directly on the moon, which is then reflecting the light back down on us. So it's this really fun axis that we're on right now. Sagittarius sun, Gemini moon. So Gemini, again, I sort of spoke some words to this, but I'm going to speak more words to Gemini, and an invitation as I speak these words to don't just let these words come in one ear, enter your mind, and go out the other ear, but let these words really settle in. It's like, can you listen to these words with your whole body? Taking those deep breaths down into your body, feeling your whole body, breathing your whole body. So you listen to this little conversation on Gemini and weaving in Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is also really loud right now. Gemini being, again, simply the mind, right? In the zodiac and in astrology, we have all these different creative ways that we speak to particular signs. But for right now, Gemini, this air sign, as the mind. Gemini is the twins. Gemini is duality. It is the way that our minds bring duality into the nature of things, right? Our minds break things apart, they separate. And they do that so that they can take the whole and understand individual parts. And that's simpler, right? It's simpler to understand individual parts, to then put it back into a whole so that we can understand a situation, so that we can make decisions, right? The beautiful power of the mind. But what happens? What happens when we become imbalanced? What happens when we become imbalanced in relation to Gemini, in relation to how people tend to be in the world? Right? Is this sort of overemphasis, this shift too far into the mind? Right? We live in a world of mind over matter, where the mind is put on a pedestal and the body and nature sort of pushed down. They're pushed away. They're suppressed. In a lot of ways, they're actively shamed or demonized. What we can do working with Gemini, this highest form of Gemini, and we can do this most simply by sitting in the power of this full moon. Sitting in the power of this full moon and calling in Gemini. Letting this radiate down through you, maybe down through your crown, down into your heart, all the way down into your abdomen, your root. So letting the energy of this full moon in Gemini, right, calling in that full moon, the moon in Gemini, and by simply embodying this energy, letting it shift you, shift your mind in relation to all else into that higher alignment. So let me share some words on another way you can do this, and another way that you could work with Gemini is to get really mental about it, to try to understand everything about Gemini, to try to understand everything about the moon and full moon cycles and astrology and astrology's relationship to your own life. And you could get really heady about it. Try to intellectually understand everything. What I'm going to offer you in a different way of doing things. Getting your head out of the way, getting that thinking mind out of the way. That need to constantly analyze, that need to constantly understand so that you can, maybe control or manipulate the situation or think you fully understand something. But if you were to get that energy out of the way so that you can sit more fully embodied, and from this space, receive the energy that is here by getting your head out of the way. It doesn't need to know everything, doesn't need to understand everything. It can't. It may think it can and it may want to, but letting your overthinking mind get out of the way so that you can sit under the light of this full moon and let its energy, connection to Gemini, move you into that higher alignment, your mind, in connection to your whole body, your whole self. So I want to weave in Sagittarius here. I want to weave in Sagittarius because, again, we're in Sagittarius season, right? The sun is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius, right? This powerful sign. I'm a 7x Sagittarius, right? My whole chart points to Sagittarius. So I'm trying not to like let Sagittarius take over this conversation of being like, I just want to talk about Sagittarius. But I do want to weave in Sagittarius because while most people think about Sagittarius as sort of these surface level, I'm going to call it surface levels. It's like the first layer of Sagittarius as, that fire arrow. Sagittarius is expansion. Sagittarius is adventure. And that's true. But if we go deeper than that fire arrow, right? That's the sign of Sagittarius. If we go deeper, what we see is that Sagittarius is actually a centaur. Sagittarius has the body of a horse. So Sagittarius is embodiment, right? Feeling into that energy of the horse. The grounded nature of Sagittarius. So feeling into this sun in Sagittarius, of holding the moon right now, right? Shining its light on the moon. Centaur, this body of the horse, feeling into the grounded, embodied nature of this. Now, when I feel into Sagittarius, when I tune into Sagittarius, it actually brings me way down in my body, from my navel area, my root. And what I've learned, right, is that this area, what we can speak to this area is seat of the soul. When we work deep in our bodies, it's the seat of the soul. So putting some words to Sagittarius in this way. Sagittarius fire, right? Sagittarius fire is soul fire. It is truth fire. Sagittarius is a warrior for truth, for soul level truth. So in feeling into the energy of the sun in Sagittarius right now, lighting up that soul level truth. If it feels aligned for you to do so, really searching deep in your body, your root, your womb, the seat of the soul. From here, can you tune into that soul fire? And from here, as you tune into that soul fire, what if you were to lead from this space? So that deeply embodied centaur, grounding you into your soul fire, your truth fire. From this space, wielding that Sagittarius bow, shooting that fire arrow out through the ethers. And from that space, following this arrow, being this arrow as it shoots you off in all the different directions you are meant to go in this life. So that's Sagittarius, right? That's Sagittarius. Thinking the sun is in Sagittarius. So we're on this axis, the sun in Sagittarius, truth fire, soul fire, going to that space. And from that space, in that alignment, taking action. So now let's shift back to Gemini. Gemini, the mind. Gemini, this air sign. So when I tune into the Gemini Sagittarius axis, the way I feel it in my body, right? This is embodiment work. So tuning into this, feeling into this, the invitation is to really feel into it. This Sagittarius energy bringing you deep into your body. This soul fire aligning you with your highest mind. Gemini in your highest mind. And from this space, taking action, moving through life. Now I'm going to put a twist on things. Because what's happening right now is Gemini is the moon, and the moon is traditionally feminine. The moon is traditionally water. It's these feminine depths. So feeling into moon energy, lunar energy, these feminine depths in your body. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. The feminine depths. So for me, lunar energy brings me deep down into my body, in that womb space. Again, man or woman, it doesn't matter your anatomy. We all have this energetic womb space, right? You might think of this or feel into it as your root, your lower chakra areas. This lunar energy. And the practice here, right? All I'm doing here is giving you different practices to tune into these energies in different ways. Of leaning more fully into what may be resonating for you. So this lunar energy, now calling Gemini into this space. I know we just talked about Gemini is the mind that's up here. What happens if you tune into that lunar energy, those depths in your body? And from this space, call in Gemini. So we can do this. And as we do this, the invitation is to slow down, to sit with this, to let it take some time. And as you do this, the invitation is to really get your head out of the way. In a lot of ways, you have dropped your mind down into your depths. You've brought your mind into this lunar energy. So if your head is really active right now, your mind's going crazy, trying to figure out what's happening, we invite it to settle down. And if it won't settle down, sort of take a step back. Let your mind do its thing, but don't get caught up in what it's doing. Using your breath to help you deepen into your body, to stay with this lunar energy, holding space for Gemini. Breathing down into your body. From here, is there any sensation? Is there any intuitive knowings? Anything unfolding in self that you might want to take note of? Maybe there's something, maybe there's nothing. Lots of times when we do this work, of the hits, those intuitive hits about what's unfolding come later on. And in this case, since the practice is really to get your mind out of the way, an invitation, a strong invitation, not to reach towards any clear knowings of what's happening, but purely energetically letting this practice unfold. Letting the energies work their magic. Sitting with this practice. I'm going to come back out of the practice and start to wrap things up. Scan that invitation to put in the chat, in the comments, if you're watching the replay. If you haven't yet, what are you releasing? And I'm curious if that has shifted in any way. Now that we've done some practice, right? There's just a little bit of practice. I haven't given a whole lot of time for anything here, but if any of these practices really hit something, you know, an invitation to deepen into them after we end this call, this video. But so you may have come into this space today with something that you're releasing, right, under the light of the full moon. But now that we've done some practice, maybe you have more clarity on what exactly it is within self that is ready to be released. Maybe in that last practice, something arose that really brought you clarity, like, wow, this is still here. But now it's ready to be released, at least to the next degree. Alrighty, friends. For those of you hanging out, I thank you so much for being with me here. For those live, popping in, for those on the replay. If you want to go deeper into this sort of space with me, join us in Circle. When you join us in Circle, we can play in different energies and this way do embodiment work, but do it in a group. I love facilitating Circle more than anything because it's not just me on one side of the camera facilitating, but it's interactive. We get to co-create. We get to weave off of each other in our shares. And you being present in that way helps me to bring through the practices that really serve, that really, really serve. And I get to see it every single month. I've been doing Circle for almost 2 years now. People consistently showing up, consistently getting to bring through practices that serve the group. And as we do in this space, you know, we're not there just for self, we're there for the whole of planet Earth is the way we're working for, yes, for self because self matters, but more than that, for community, for the ecosystems we're part of, and for the whole of planet Earth. So check it out, upwardslopes.com/circle. Make sure you're on the Mountain Mystic newsletter. You can also do that at upwardslopes.com. Hope you have some more time to go hang out in that moon magic, and I look forward to seeing you next time.